Pest infestation? Call Bugman, because when you see red, bugs are dead.
All right, it is Tuesday, the 21st of October. We're going into week 9 of the college football season. Let's do a quick recap. I know we've kind of jumped around. Let me just say this real quick. I know we kind of jumped around. We said we were going to do Tuesday, Thursday, and then we started doing some Sunday, Tuesday, and so that's why I waited till Tuesday. That's why I waited till today to do this, to try to get back on a normal schedule. I still like doing the one on Sunday following the Saturday, but I also feel like I miss a little bit of information that comes out later in the day. So that's one reason I waited. So anyway, we'll try to get on some sort of a schedule that makes sense here. But we always start with Roanoke College. If you're around the area or if you're listened, Roanoke College's first year is this year. Man, they were having such a good season. They had the one loss to Randolph-Macon, and then Shenandoah came to town last week. It looks like, they had been averaging about 5,000 to 5,500 people. Just looking at the box score, it looks like they dropped 1,000. Which is a little surprising because Tech wasn't playing last week. But neither here nor there. I didn't go last week. I don't know a whole lot about it. I know they lost 33 to 20 to Shenandoah. They're on the road this week at Hampton-Sydney, which sorry, Roanoke College fans, I think you're in for a long day there. I think Hampton-Sydney is not far off of Randolph-Macon in terms of being in first place. And then, they still have a couple winnable games, and they have William and Mary. But the way this thing's playing out, if they win the 2 that we think they're going to win, then, they're probably going to come in about 4th or 5th in the ODAC and probably be 6-4 first season in the ODAC. And I don't know. If you asked the coaching staff or anybody true full expectations earlier in the year, I don't know that anybody would have told you they thought they were going to be second or third in the league. So 6-4, I think would probably be something that they would be excited about preseason wise. Now, nobody likes to lose. I get that. I'm just saying in terms of full expectations. So good job, Roanoke College. Keep it going. You got to go on the road to Hampton-Sydney this week, and that's going to be a bear. But we'll get into where we were right, we were wrong this week. First time, I can just say this, the first time this year where we were right, we actually were 3-0 on our locks. I've been doing a couple of extra bets on the website too. For the last couple of weeks, those have been 500, both of them, and we've put 4 out each week and went 2-2, so nothing crazy there. We had a winning week this week, 6-4 on the spreadsheet, but 3-0 on the locks. Where were we wrong? Duke. I took Duke get minus the 1.5 versus Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech just. They're a good team. They know how to win really close games. We'll go get into the ACC here in just a second, so I don't want to get lost too much there. We were wrong on UVA. I don't know. UVA's offense didn't look that great, and obviously you could probably say Washington State played good too, but I think they struggled a little bit there. We were wrong with Clemson. Man, I really thought they'd bounce back defensively at home. But they didn't, and it just gets worse for them. We were wrong with LSU. Vandy put it on them at home. Where we were right, Friday night we took Louisville minus the 13.5, or excuse me, plus the 13.5. They won outright. Georgia, we had Georgia minus 7. They covered that at the end there. We had Notre Dame They also covered at the end. We took North Carolina plus the 8.5. They fumbled in the end zone. They were about to win the game. So he had the 8.5, so they covered that. We took Michigan State's 27.5 versus Indiana. I mean, Indiana's good, but something that I'll just give you a tip on. When you start saying all these big numbers on all these teams they're playing that are in the Big Ten, keep in mind they're a little bit over rated, if you will, those lines. So, keep an eye on that. And then A&M and Arkansas, we took Arkansas plus the 7.5. It covered there at the end. Man, I'm telling you, that A&M Arkansas game, it is annually some weird stuff happens. Same thing happened the other night. And it's usually somewhere between 3 and 6, 7 points. So that's the reason we took that Arkansas bet. So looking ahead to week 9. I'll just say this: ACC, man. If you're an ACC fan or your team's in the ACC, this is not a bash session on you. I'm just telling you like it is, man. If you look at the schedule that they have out this week, it's really, really bad. And you want to know why you're not making any money, television money. I mean, that's a reason. This week you've got Friday night Cal at Virginia Tech, Syracuse at Georgia Tech, Virginia at North Carolina, SMU at Wake, North Carolina State at Pitt, Stanford at Miami, Boston College at Louisville. So essentially you have a team that's at the top of the standings versus a team that's at the bottom of the standings in just about all of those. So, I don't know. It's kind of the way that it's fallen this year, but it's not a good look for a league that's that's out there looking for more money for television or whatever for the teams. We're also getting to a little bit of like I said, we're also getting to a point where you can kind of start looking ahead. And I want to the UVA fans, if anybody listens, is probably not going to be very happy with me, but you can start kind of looking ahead, like who's going to play in the championship games, right? I know there's a lot of games that still have to be played, but in terms of like who UVA's playing, who Georgia Tech's playing, who Miami's playing, who SMU's playing, or whatever, there's a very real chance that Georgia Tech, Georgia Tech, Miami, and Virginia they don't cross over at any point from here until the end of the year, so they're not going to play each other. Right now, Virginia does not have a loss in the ACC. Neither does Georgia Tech. Miami has one, right? But there's a real chance that Virginia can run the table, get into the ACC championship game. Georgia Tech run the table, or at the very least, if they lose to Georgia at the end of the year, they're going to be in the championship game. And then the loser of the ACC championship game will not go to the playoffs. So Virginia can be, I guess that would be 11-2 if they lose in the championship game and not go to the playoff, because Miami's going to be sitting there. They don't make the playoff. That is, if they can get by SMU. They're going to be sitting there, didn't play that championship game, have the one loss, and they're going to be higher in the rankings. Same thing goes for Virginia. If they win, Georgia Tech has their first loss. That's going to be very interesting because Virginia would be in. What does the committee look at in terms of Georgia Tech and Miami? So are they going to, you can go from 2 bids to 1 bid if everything plays out here. But I think there's more scenario where Virginia kind of gets the raw end of the stick here, unless they win the ACC championship game. Even if they finish undefeated in the ACC and go and lose their first quote-unquote game in the ACC, that would still have given them the second loss. And Miami's going to be sitting there possibly with a win against SMU, higher ranked, not playing in that game. And then, of course, if Georgia Tech wins, then they just ran the table. They went undefeated. So, if I'm a Virginia fan, I am definitely rooting for another loss for Miami. Because if not, there's a real chance. Say if Miami loses 2, Virginia goes into that, then yeah, maybe there's a chance with Virginia losing, they get into the playoff. But if they don't win that game, there's a very good chance, just the way this thing's setting up, that they're going to be on the outside looking in. Because I don't see the committee putting in 3 ACC teams. They could take one away from the Big 12, but the Big 12 right now, Texas Tech's looking very good. BYU's looking very good. So it's going to be hard to steal a bid from somebody. So if you're looking at it, that bid would have to come from the Big 10 or the SEC. Now, last year the Big 10 had more than the SEC, so that's a possibility. That's a real possibility that only 3 teams from the Big 10 go, which would be Oregon, Ohio State, and Indiana. That's a real chance. That's a real possibility. And then you get 4 out of the SEC. That's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It could happen. But I would just say this, UVA fans, you need to keep winning. A loss paralyzes you, first of all, and then second of all, you're going to need Miami to do something stupid against somebody they play. So we can hop over into coaching searches and so forth. Like since we talked last, Florida got rid of Napier. Florida. In my opinion, Florida's the number 1 job on the market right now. Penn State would be 2. I know a lot of Virginia Tech fans think they're 3. I'm sorry, you're not. I would have Arkansas ahead of you, and I'd probably have Oklahoma State ahead of you. In terms of money, in terms of facilities. Now, the problem is there's going to be more coming. Like, we don't know what's going to happen with LSU. Florida State just come out and said, well, we're going to talk about it at the end of the month, at the end of the year. Well, what that means is they don't have the money, because it's over $100 million to get rid of the head coach and the staff at Florida State. But it's obvious that's not working. He had one really good year with a quarterback that was pretty good that got hurt. Other than that, they've been terrible with him. So I would not be shocked to see him gone. Wisconsin's kind of staying, giving a little confidence to Fickle. I don't know. I think you're going to see some more openings happen. And I think some of these names are going to start to get gobbled up by their team that they're with now. So I think you're going to start seeing some names, some assistants and stuff that get jobs. I think that's where this is going to end up going. Because, everybody knows sometimes the grass isn't greener on the other side. Just because you go from one name to another, well, if you're doing good, the problem is everybody that they're talking about right now is in the top 5 or 10. Well, those guys aren't entertaining what they can do next year. It's, 7-8 weeks into this. So, I just think you're going to start seeing some names that you might not have expected pop up for some of these jobs, Virginia Tech included. I've said there's some big names out there, and everybody wants a big name, and they're going to go for experience, and I get all that. I do. Personally, stay away from JMU's coach. I think that's a bad decision. Liberty's coach, stay away. Old Dominion's coach, stay away. But I'm not opposed to a Joe Brady. That's offensive coordinator in the NFL. That was the offensive coordinator at LSU when they won the national championship for Burrow. That's a name. He's an offensive coach. Brian Hartline at Ohio State. Man, he's probably the number 1 recruiter in the country. He's a young guy. I think somebody's going to have to take a chance on something like that. Now, Virginia Tech probably doesn't have the length on their leash to do that. They're probably going to have to go with somebody that is a head coach. But it's going to be hard. I think it's going to be hard to snag somebody that doesn't get fired. Now, Auburn might come open. Hugh Freeze might open up. That might be an option for him. I don't think Hugh Freeze is a bad coach. I just think, where he is, he's kind of behind the eight ball. They've got talent. I mean, they've almost won like 3 or 4 of the games they lost. So I don't know that would be bad for Virginia Tech. I would take a Hugh Freeze before I'd take like the guy from South Florida. I would take Hugh Freeze over him. I would take Hugh Freeze over any of those JMU Liberty guys that we just talked about. Dan Mullen, he has a $7 million buyout, so I don't know. I don't know if that's an option. But there's a lot out there now. You're going to hear rumors, but I just think every time there's a bigger for the Virginia Tech fans, every time there's a bigger school that opens up, Virginia Tech's going to fall down that totem pole. I have them probably sitting at 5 right now, behind Arkansas, a little bit ahead of Oklahoma State in terms of openings. But, that's just my opinion. That it's not 100% right. But just knowing what I know about facilities and those bigger name programs are going to be able to pay. I mean, something to keep in mind, I don't know if everybody remembers this, but when the ACC signed their new contract, SMU's not getting any money, and I don't believe Stanford and Cal are either. But when they signed that new agreement, it was kind of a revenue sharing type deal, and that means like the guys that are doing better. So that means Virginia, Miami, Georgia Tech, especially in television money, they're going to get more money at the end of the year than a Virginia Tech. So where it used to be straight $35 million for each team, it could be $45 million for the upper tier and $25 for the lower tier, which means you just lost, $5-10 million on the season that you used to be getting. So that's something to keep in mind if you're not aware of the revenue sharing that they signed. I don't know why some of these schools agreed to that, but they did. So that's just something to keep in mind. Looking ahead to Week 9, the Week 9 schedule, like I said, Friday, Cal's at Virginia Tech. Right now, Virginia Tech's a 4.5 point favorite. A tricky game on Saturday, UCLA at Indiana. Indiana is a 25.5 point favorite. If anybody's paid attention, UCLA fired their coach and they went 3-0. Ole Miss at Oklahoma, that's a big time game. Both of those have one loss in the SEC. It's at Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a 5.5 point favorite. Virginia is at North Carolina. And if anybody knows, this is an old Southern rivalry. I don't know if it's the oldest or one of the oldest. Some crazy things tend to happen in this game over the years. 10.5 is the spread. UVA minus 10.5. Like my head says absolutely. My heart says, be careful. That 10.5 seems something up there. South Florida at Memphis. Anybody remember Memphis was the team they were talking about? The non-Power 5 going to the playoff. They got beat last week. Now they're at home and they're a 5.5 point underdog. I love the underdog live dog, so we'll look at that one. In terms of other big games, you've got Missouri at Vanderbilt. Wow, what Vanderbilt's having a season, right? Vandy minus 2.5. Right now, I'm probably leaning Missouri. Alabama at South Carolina, 12.5 point spread there for Alabama. An interesting game in terms of Boston College at Louisville. Louisville's a 25.5 point favorite. They're way better than Boston College. Anybody seen the interview this past week with O'Brien? He was like, I don't know. I just don't know what's going on. So, but those tend to. So the team either quits or the team kind of has a little resolve and comes back the next week. So That'll be interesting. That's a lot of points there. Houston at Arizona State for the Big 12. That's going to be a big-time game out in Arizona. So there's not A&M is at LSU. I'm telling you, right, A&M's a 2.5-point favorite. Go ahead, mark it down. LSU will beat A&M. This will be A&M's first loss. I mean, I don't say that because I'm a fan. Everybody thinks I keep saying that because I'm a fan and I'm not going for my team. But, I mean, I was right last week. The week before that, I've been right 3 or 4 times on them this year is where I'm going with this. I've seen this picture. I've lived this picture. And I also know that this week is it's a must-win for LSU and for Chip Kelly. Brian Kelly, if I'm honest, because they've already got 2 losses. If they lose this game, they still have Alabama. That might be another hot seat going on right there. The coach might get fired there. So I think this is must-win. Now, sometimes you can put a lot of pressure on yourself on these must-wins, but just be careful. Just be careful. I really think LSU upsets A&M this week, and as much as I hate to say it, I can't stand LSU, but I just think it's a must-win game for them. Do they get too high? Do they get too low? Is the thing. I mean, they're doing all kinds of craziness. It's a night game. They're giving their national championship rings to the baseball team. They're having a drone show. They've got fireworks. I mean, they've really built this up to beat the shit out of A&M. It's really what this adds up to, right? But I'd be careful there. It's not a very good week overall, but I will say Vegas has started to get a little bit better on their lines. If anybody listens to the radio, I think what you're seeing is sort of like the NFL lines. You know, the NFL has comes out on Wednesday. Well, it comes out Tuesday and Wednesday. They have an injury report. Talks about the players' availability and all that. Now, most of these conferences have an availability report. Comes out on Thursday. I think that in itself has helped Vegas sharpen the pencil on a lot of these lines. So if you're wondering why this season seems like it's a little bit tougher, this is really the first year that all of them are doing some type of availability. I don't know if the Big Ten is yet, but it seems like everybody else is. But anyway, I have rambled. It's about 22 minutes into this, and hopefully we'll be back Thursday, and if not, we will see you Sunday probably. Talk to you. Heathens Kettle Corn and Mobile Grill. You can find them at Dr. Pepper Park, local Roanoke events, and also now doing fundraising with teams, organizations, churches, etc. Find them on Facebook, Heathens Kettle Corn and Mobile Grill.